What is going on, Headliner Nation? Back with the fantasy headliners. It is Thursday, which means it's rankings day, and I am here for my top 36 wide receivers, a few that maybe just missed the cut, and then my top 18 tight ends. But before we dive into all of that information, we have a special sponsor for today's video. Check it out.
You need to head over to VinceroCollective.com. There's a link down below in the description. They're a premium lifestyle brand out of San Diego, making high quality and affordable sunglasses, jewelry. You saw the watches. When I see the products at Vincero Collective, three words come to mind: stylish, quality, and versatility. Vincero designs everything in-house, sources their own materials, and produces them in small batches. They're committing to doing things well or not at all. From quality you can feel to style you can't deny, Vincero Collective guarantees to up your game. And now, for a limited time only, get 20% off and free shipping when you use code word headliners at checkout of VinceroCollective.com.
Vincero, we appreciate it. Thanks so much. Make sure, Headliner Nation, when you head over there, if you see anything nice that you want, use that code word to check out. But let's go ahead and hop into it, kicking it off with the wide receivers. Tyreek Hill is going to start it off at wide receiver 1 this week against the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe a little bit more of a tougher matchup, but you can't quit Tyreek Hill, baby. Davante Adams is going to be at 2 for me going up against the Chargers. High scoring game incoming right there. A.J. Brown against Tennessee. Tennessee allowing the second most fantasy points this season to wide receivers. I'm liking what I could see from A.J. Brown this week. Amon-Ra St. Brown going up against Jacksonville. Wide receiver 4 might seem a little high in your mind. He's the wide receiver 5 over the last 4 weeks. Justin Jefferson is going to get the New York Jets. And now this is a tougher matchup. And yes, Justin Jefferson is normally matchup proof. I get that. But this is a tougher matchup that he's had in quite some time. Even his matchup against Buffalo was not as tough as this one. So I'm just trying to play the floor a little bit more than what the ceiling that we've been used to the last few weeks. Stefon Diggs against New England with that elbow injury to Josh Allen that he's working through. Stefon Diggs is a beast. He continues to see plenty of targets. We're just missing a little bit of that ceiling because some of those big plays that he had been getting just are not there right now. Chris Godwin against New Orleans. Marshawn Lattimore will obviously be on Mike Evans. Chris Godwin is on fire right now. Touchdown in back-to-back weeks. I like him this week against New Orleans. T. Higgins, I've got inside the top 10 against Kansas City. Now, a lot of you are excited about Ja'Marr Chase. Spoiler alert, his name's not going to be on this list for a few more spots. The reason I'm going T. Higgins is because I'm just playing it safe with Ja'Marr Chase. Do they take him off the field every once in a while? Does he come back out and start to feel a little stiffness or anything like that? He should be good to go, and he should play this week. I am just trying to be cautious with what we could see from him, so I'm going to give the upside to T. Higgins in a high-scoring affair. Keenan Allen is going to be at number 9 against Las Vegas. I mentioned it with Davante Adams already. Probably going to be a shootout here. Jalen Waddle against San Francisco at number 10. Doesn't have quite the upside that Tyreek Hill does, but still sees plenty of volume. Garrett Wilson against Minnesota. Minnesota giving up quite a bit of fantasy points. Inside the top 6 of most allowed to wide receivers this season. Garrett Wilson's going to come in at number 11. Mike White has rejuvenated that offense there. CeeDee Lamb going up against Indianapolis. Now, Indianapolis allows the fewest fantasy points. CeeDee Lamb just a little bit lower on the ceiling this week. Amari Cooper going up against Houston. Deshaun Watson will be back. Are we going to be throwing it a lot? Christian Kirk going up against Detroit. Normally, I would have him inside the top 12. Detroit has looked a lot better as of recent, though. Tyler Lockett against a beat-up LA Rams. He's going to come in at number 15. I like his upside. Chris Olave has good upside going against Tampa Bay this week. DK Metcalf just a little bit lower because I think we'll see a little Jalen Ramsey on him, a little off. We're going to see him moved around a little bit. Right now, DK Metcalf has a safer floor than Tyler Lockett, but Tyler Lockett has a higher ceiling. Ja'Marr Chase at number 18. I mentioned it a second ago with Ja'Marr Chase, right? I'm just being cautious that he doesn't see a full workload this week. Just limited maybe a little bit. And because of that, I've just got him a little bit lower. He could be as high as wide receiver 12 in these rankings. If you own Ja'Marr Chase and he plays this week, you're going to start him. If you own T. Higgins, you're going to start him this week. There's plenty for both of these guys. I expect them both to produce. I'm just, again, being careful with Ja'Marr Chase. Brandon Ayuk at number 19. Like the ceiling that we've seen from him as of late, as of recently. Hopefully Miami is putting up some points. If they do, then Jimmy G is going to have to throw it. Terry McLaurin against the New York Giants. Safe floor this week. I do think there could be a little bit of upside. I do think he sees the majority of the targets. Christian Watson going up against Chicago. I just don't know who his quarterback is going to be yet at this point. George Pickens going up against Atlanta. Atlanta allows the second most fantasy points to wide receivers, or excuse me, the third most fantasy points to wide receivers. Pittsburgh allows the most. George Pickens right now going to be at 22 for me. Touchdown upside in my mind there for him. Michael Pittman Jr. I'd like to go higher with him. We'll probably see Diggs this week. We'll limit some of his upside. Going up against Dallas, I like Michael Pittman. Deebo Samuel going up against Miami. He was going to be outside my top 24 this week, to be honest, and probably a sit. However, with the injuries to Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel could find himself in the backfield again this week. Cortland Sutton going up against Baltimore. I mentioned this in my start and sit video. He has absolutely no ceiling right now, but over the last 3 weeks, he's averaged 10.5 fantasy points per game in half PPR leagues. He is a really safe low-end wide receiver too. Devontae Smith going up against Tennessee. A lot of ceiling there for him, but do they run all over the place like they did against Green Bay? Deontay Johnson going up against Atlanta. Atlanta allows a lot of fantasy points. Deontay Johnson will be a start for me. He's like the only wide receiver to have like 90 plus targets and no touchdowns this year. It's crazy. Zay Jones going up against Detroit. A lot of volume. As long as he gets the volume, he's a safe start. Mike Evans going up against New Orleans. It's probably crazy for you all to be like, holy cow, Mike Evans at wide receiver 29. But these are the type of games that Mike Evans does have with New Orleans every once in a while where he doesn't really score. We see, maybe 70, 80 yards, maybe 4 or 5 catches or something like that. He's going to be right around 10 to 11 fantasy points this week. That's all I'm expecting out of him. Isaiah McKenzie, I think he is a guy that is startable going up against New England. Gabe Davis is going to be a sit for me, but Isaiah McKenzie is a guy that, again, with that shoulder or with that elbow injury to Josh Allen, he's having trouble pushing the ball down the field on a consistent basis. He's utilizing those intermediate routes a little bit more. That's where Isaiah McKenzie will eat. Juju Smith-Schuster. Mentioned it when talking about the Cincinnati wide receivers. Going to be a shootout. Going to be more than enough volume. Juju will be the main benefactor for that in the Kansas City offense, outside of Travis Kelce. Gabe Davis, he's a sit for me this week, but he will make it into the top 36 because of his upside alone. Yes, he has been a little bit lower as of recently. We haven't seen that upside in a couple of weeks, but it is always there and lurking. And the reason we haven't seen it again is because Josh Allen's elbow. Nothing to do with Gabe Davis. It has to do with the Allen injury. Donovan Peoples-Jones going up against Houston. Again, Cleveland with Deshaun Watson back. Are they throwing it all over Houston this week? Brandon Cooks, if they are throwing it all over Houston, Houston's going to have to throw it right back. And that's where Brandon Cooks makes it inside the top 36. 35, Darius Slayton going up against Washington. Decent matchup for him. He's been a guy that over 60 receiving yards each of the last 5 weeks. I think we could see it again this week. And then Treylon Burks, very big play dependent right now. Really lucked out last week. Unfortunately, for Derrick Henry owners, Derrick Henry just right before the goal line dropped that ball right there, but that's all right. Treylon Burks is making it in there. Starting to see a little bit of a tick up. Does have some upside because of the big playability. Just not really a safe floor right now. A few guys that are on the outside looking in. Matt Collins, he's got touchdown potential and will be a big game against the Chargers. A lot of back and forth. I just don't trust Collins to be consistent. Adam Thielen coming off a big week last week, but now he gets the New York Jets. Really tough matchup. The only people I'm really going to trust here, TJ Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson, Josh Palmer. If there's no Mike Williams this week, then Josh Palmer will be a guy that has good upside. But the reason I've left him out of here is because DeAndre Carter had such a good week last week. Jacoby Myers, if he does play, and I apologize, he's got a shoulder issue, not a concussion. I accidentally said concussion last in my start and sit show, so I apologize for that. Jacoby Myers for me going up against Buffalo. We'll probably see plenty of volume if he plays, but maybe not that ceiling that some of these other guys will. And then Drake London for Atlanta against Pittsburgh allows a lot of fantasy points, the most to wide receivers in the league, but you can't really trust anybody from the wide receiver group in Atlanta. But if there would be one guy to score a touchdown, it would be Drake London. All right, wide receivers done. Out of the books. Tight ends, baby. The football kind. Let's break it down. Again, my top 3, basically the same every week. Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle. Why? they are the guys with the highest upside and the safest floor on any given week. They are the most trustworthy tight ends. They are the most big play tight ends. They are the guys that if you put in your lineup, you're going to get maybe a bust performance every once in a while from Andrews and Kittle like we did last week, because I know someone's going to mention it. But they are the guys that we can trust to be the best at any given time at any point this season. 1, 2, and 3 for those guys. The next two, kind of the next tier of tight ends, is George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, or excuse me, not George Kittle, TJ Hawkinson, Pat Freiermuth, and Dalton Schultz. These three guys provide a really nice floor for you, right? Maybe the upside isn't there every single week because maybe they don't score as much as what you would see like Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, even though Dalton Schultz is coming off a 2 TD performance. These are guys that are really looked at as being maybe the number 2 target in their offense. TJ Hawkinson, probably number 2, right behind Justin Jefferson right now. Pat Freiermuth is like a 1A, 1B with George Pickens. Dalton Schultz is right behind CeeDee Lamb. So these three guys are that kind of that next tier of tight ends where if you start them, maybe we're not looking at a big ceiling each week, but more than likely they're going to provide a nice floor. The next two after that, the risky but upside potential tight ends. Now, David Njoku found himself much higher in terms of safety earlier in the season, but since then, Donovan Peoples-Jones has made a nice little breakout into being a fantasy reliable wide receiver, except for last week. And then for David Njoku, didn't really do anything last week coming out of that injury until he scored that touchdown late. But the biggest question mark here is Deshaun Watson, and will Deshaun Watson utilize David Njoku as much as Jacoby Brissett did throughout the season? So there is some risk there, but touchdown is going to be there, and to me, he is the guy that could be the number 2 in this offense. Kind of same thing with Juwan Johnson. The touchdowns could be there. Big red zone threat. He is a guy that's been playing fairly well so far over the last several weeks. Really bad performance last week, but even with that, since like week 4, he's the tight end 4 on the season. So he's being utilized in this offense. You could say he's number 2 behind Chris Olave target-wise. Again, really low floor because we just don't know what to do with these offenses at times, but the ceiling is there for me, and that's why they make it in here at number 7 and 8. Let's go on to number 9. Number nine, Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, for me, makes it back in because of Mike White. He is a guy that's going to utilize Conklin a little bit more. My question is he going to battle with Elijah Moore for those targets? If he doesn't have to, if Mike White will pin himself on Tyler Conklin, Conklin is a guy that will make a jump up right behind Dalton Schultz in the coming weeks. Hayden Hurst in a matchup against Kansas City. Again, for some reason, if Jamar Chase is just limited, Hayden Hurst could see a nice amount of volume. If Jamar Chase is not limited, maybe we don't see that volume, but it brings the efficiency potential up and the touchdown potential up. Foster Moreau going up against the LA Chargers. He's scoring touchdowns 2 of the last 3 weeks. Cole Kmet, no Darnell Mooney right now. That's why I've got him back inside the top 12. He becomes maybe the number 1 target in this offense. Dawson Knox at number 13 going up against New England. Again, will Josh Allen utilize him a little bit more with some tougher matchups on the outside? Evan Ingram against Detroit. Detroit gives up a lot of fantasy points to tight ends, but again, I preach this for the last several weeks. They look a whole lot better, so it's really hard to figure out what we're going to get from them on a weekly basis, so Evan Ingram is risky for me. Greg Dulcich going up against Baltimore. I'm really kind of off on Greg Dulcich and Gerald Everett at number 15 and 16 right now, and even Tyler Higbee at number 17. All 3 guys are ones that we could have put into our lineup at one point in time, but Dulcich just is unfortunately in an offense that is really, really bad right now, even with Russell Wilson at the helm. Gerald Everett is a guy that's lost a ton of volume. He's been a little banged up as of recent, but with DeAndre Carter and Josh Palmer and Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler getting targets right now, it's just really taken away from Gerald Everett. Tyler Higbee last week was really beat up. Unfortunately, really the only time he was on the field last week playing limited snaps, he was checking in as a guy that was an ineligible receiver just so he could help block on the offensive line. And then Logan Thomas, I mean, he wasn't even the guy last week in his offense. It was Sims. So for Logan Thomas, he's going to just barely slide in to the bottom part of the 18 right here because going up against the New York Giants, tougher matchup for the wide receivers. Maybe we do see a little more Logan Thomas this week. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My wide receiver and tight end rankings for week 13. Get your lineup set. For those of you that are members, just a quick update. I will be live Friday during the lunch hour from 12 to 2 to speak with you all because unfortunately I won't be here on Sunday. I'm going to be in Indianapolis with my boy. We're going to be watching Michigan and Purdue for the Big Ten Championship, so I'll be there Saturday night and Sunday. So unfortunately, I will not be here for the live shows this week, so I'm going to do the members only one on Friday instead. Make sure you've got your reminder set for that. But ladies and gentlemen, peace out, stay safe and healthy, and I'll catch you all on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.